Black Scully on check. Got a little American. We got this from American Media Day shirt on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. I am so excited to be back in front of you all doing this show that I like to call Governor of College Football. It feels like it's been so long since we just had candid conversations about college football. Of course, you're going to get me every week on Overreaction Monday. You're going to get me every week on CFP Late Show, the show that I do with Moon and Jalen sometimes, whenever his schedule allows. Of course, you're going to see me on College Football Showdown, another fantastic show that I get to do every week with my dog, Jalen. And I'm just excited to be here. One percenters. We're just going to have a candid conversation about college football. Don't be afraid to go to the YouTube at Governor of College Football. And if you're in the chat, we'll talk. We'll interrupt the show that I have prepared for you all today. But on today's docket, we're going to talk about the CFP bracket. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I honestly probably wanted to do this show a couple of days ago. It's probably best that I didn't do this show a couple of days ago because I'd have probably been a little emotional. And that's one of my favorite things. One of the things you all don't know about me is I'm a huge fan of battle rap. And one of the sayings in battle rap, and I also love hip-hop as well, but one of the sayings is, look at him, he's emotional. And you guys would have been saying that to me the other day. Look at him, he's emotional. That's just one of those statements. So we're going to talk about the bracket. I'll give you guys my thoughts on the bracket. I also, based upon the bracket, based upon potential games, I'll give who I think can win it all. I don't think that there is one solid team that's just head and shoulders above everybody else. I think it's all dependent upon and contingent upon how the bracket falls together, in all honesty. But we'll have to see, and we'll have to talk about that. And in talking about this college football playoff bracket, I'm going to continue to beat my drum and why a G5 playoff is necessary. Just to give you guys a quick outlook on my thought process of it, it's simple. Like, you look at the FCS ranks, the likelihood of an HBCU team winning the FCS championship is slim and none, with Slim leaving the building, right? So with the HBCU, what they do at that level is they do something called a Celebration Bowl, which is the HBCU Super Bowl, which we are credentialed for this week, which I am going to fly to Atlanta. I'm not certain if I'm going to fly tomorrow or Thursday there, but I believe Moon got us on Radio Row as well, so we'll be there. We're going to also talk about that game today as well. It's on today's docket. But I believe a G5 playoff is needed. I'm not going to go too much details on the format and all of that. I've done that on previous shows. You can watch it. Just search it on my channel. I'm sure you'll find it. But I just believe that what we have this year is why we need it. 100%. We can get into the semantics. We can get into how you feel about it. I'm going to also speak on how I feel about it. But that the very end of the day, I think it's important for all of us to kind of understand where we're all coming from. Also, SEC released their all-conference today. I love getting the emails around this time of year. This is a great time of the year for emails if you're in or if you are part of college football media. Like, we getting bold credentials left and right, emails coming through. We love mass emails from the various conferences. I always look forward to my ACC mass emails, my Big 12 mass emails. American don't send them out as often, but SEC, we finally get a lot of emails from them. And about a few hours ago, I got an email from SEC. They listed their all-conference team. I said, I planned on going live today anyway, so we're going to talk about their all-conference. And I believe there's an agenda with the SEC. I think this is very important. Me and my dog Nino was having just kind of like a friendly debate of why Ty Simpson has been left out of this thing and why Diego Pavia is in it. Because, you look at the numbers, especially, from passing, Ty Simpson does have better numbers. But I think they're close enough. I think they're in the same sphere. I just think that when you start to look at the rushing yards and what Diego Pavia has done on the ground, and honestly what he have done he put an entire city on his back, an entire program on his back. Vandy will be successful in the future because of Barton Simmons, because of Clark Lee, but it's because of the groundwork Diego Pavia and these gentlemen on this current football team and last year's team, the foundation that they laid. And I believe there's a Diego Pavia agenda that's here, And I think it's an important piece when we really start to look into it. I don't want to get into it too much, but I think there's an important piece to this puzzle you got to look at. Talked about the Celebration Bowl a little bit earlier. We're going to preview that game. We will be there in attendance. We're also going to give you guys some live footage from Radio Row. We're just hoping we can get an Ethernet cord. That's all we want. We want an Ethernet cord. We want to be able to do what we do best, in all honesty. And also, it's Army-Navy week. It's one of the most prestigious games of the season. It's hard year in and year out. You know, the older that you get, the more you become in tune with your emotions. The older you get is the more you wake up and you don't just jump out of bed immediately running to go somewhere. You'll set your alarm to wake up a little bit earlier. You give yourself time to think, kind of stare at the wall and kind of, whether that's planning out your day or, you know, just things. You know, Jimmy V had the great quote of you should think every day, you know, laugh every day and be moved to tears every day. And that's something I try to live by. So whenever I see Army-Navy game and I see how grand it is, the event is, the prestige in which the game is approached, you almost get, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't in the military. You know, I do got, you know what I'm saying, my right-hand man, Jamel, that I went to college with, he was in the Army. Boomer, D-Now, they're military as well. So I kind of feel a sense of pride for them during that moment. So I can't wait to talk about this Army-Navy preview. Governor of College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of Alrighty, so let's do some into the news segment. I was having an outstanding conversation with my dog Nino before I went live, and I love being able to have like these candid discussions with people, especially right before I go live. Most of the time, it end up being Moon, and we'll trade jabs about our thoughts on some current event in college football. Sometimes it ends up being Jalen. Like me and Jalen was talking for like an hour and a half yesterday, just about life, just about everything. You know what I'm saying? Mental health and all of that stuff, and it's important. Make sure you all do take care of yourselves. Mental health is very important, and it's okay to have a mental health day where I'm gonna put my phone away. I ain't answering any phone calls, because if you don't do that, you're gonna end up going off on people. So Diego Pavia is going to the Senior Bowl. We've been getting out approvals for our credentials. I haven't made it to the Senior Bowl since January of 2023. I'm excited to be there. I just remember that being the moment where I first met Boomer, first met Coach of T2T. Shout out to all the guys from T2T. Was that the first time I met Moon? Yeah, I think Senior Bowl 2023. I've known Moon since 2020, but that was the first time I met Moon. Me and Mike went down there, and the overarching theme that leaves me from that 2023 Senior Bowl experience was this. It was the work that these guys put in with the interviews. Like Coach did an outstanding job with the interviews. Nino and Boomer did an outstanding job with the interviews. Moon did an outstanding job with the interviews. I had some bright moments with the interviews, but to me, it was, we was at this Airbnb. I'm not going to say the name of it in case we decide to get it, but, it was a pretty dope Airbnb, and there was lots to do. Like, Boomer took over the chef duties. He was making sure everybody ate good. He held it down. Coach and Moon was chopping it up. They was playing pool, but I felt like it was such a special moment because me and Nino, I think that was the day we figured out, like, yo, we are closer than we think. Like, Boomer cooking, making sure everybody good. Like I said, Coach, Nino chilling in the background, Mike chilling in the background. Me and Nino were side by side working. The only time that, like, granted, I enjoyed myself because I was down there. I was doing what I love. It was the first taste and the first element of being able to do what I love. But that's when I think me and Nino realized, yo, like, yeah, because we was grinding, bro. Like literally, like I think I ate mostly Chipotle that week because I'm vegan, if you don't know, and it's hard to find things that I can eat. So Chipotle is like where I get kind of a balanced meal, and I'm able to go there. So I didn't go out and enjoy myself to the Mardi Gras event where they had Nelly perform. So each and every day it was me and my dog Nino side by side working, and we had a lot of audio issues. So we editing audio, we pre-doing thumbnails. Even if we didn't interview a player, we was pre-doing them because we had an idea like who we wanted to interview and stuff like that. And it was just one of the greatest moments, one of my favorite moments, probably other than this past media run we did, during media days. That was my favorite event. You know what I'm saying? Just me and my dog Nino side by side working, pushing out this content. And we had such an exponential growth for At the CFB Nation over on YouTube. And I think it was the foundation that all of us laid, but really me and Nino side by side working on that content, bro. It was just such a dope thing. So I'm super excited to get down there. I don't care who's there, who isn't there as it pertains to the players, the quality of the players, but I'm just excited just to put out quality content for everybody. Super excited about that. So Diego Pavia going to the Senior Bowl. Diego Pavia also just was given the Golden Arm, the Johnny Unitas Award. I think this kid is about to clean up during this here award season. I think Diego Pavia is going to clean up. I think Diego Pavia, I've said it all season. I said it in the preseason. He reminds me of the Rocky story. Like when you watch him, that moxie, that mantra, I'm undersized. I probably can't throw the ball 45 yards. You feel me? He probably can throw the ball 45 yards, but you know what I mean. He doesn't have the strongest arm. I already said he's undersized, but he just plays with this chip on his shoulder, and he just has the biggest heart in the world. But I think he's really about to clean up. And we're going to talk about the Heisman finalists. And like I said, Nino and I was just having an outstanding conversation. And we do this a lot in our CFB Nation group chat. We'll just have these grand conversations. And to me, I don't know if people know how much life it gives me. I'm like, I'm about to do a live show. Boom, let me go ahead and play the advocate, you know what I'm saying, for him. Because we like, yo, why Ty Simpson in there? And I want to say right there what I thought it was, but I'm going to say it now. I believe there's an agenda by the SEC to get Diego Pavia this Heisman Trophy award, but it's going to be difficult. We got Jeremiah Love, outstanding season this season, truly put this team on their back. You think about Notre Dame, you think about them being snubbed from the college football playoff, you think about them opting out of a bowl game. I don't blame them. I've seen a lot of people speak on this situation. Oh, that's sore sports. Like, what are you showing the next generation? Dude, that don't got nothing to do with being a sore sport. At the end of the day, Notre Dame is a huge brand. College football was trying to benefit off of them being a huge brand and the fact that their fans travel well. If they aren't good enough to be in your college football playoff, hey, neither here nor there. I won't argue it because, hey, head-to-head means a lot. So I'm not going to argue that. You know, I will argue a little bit later about the G5 opportunities that the ACC created, so we do have to look at this and view it a little bit differently because of that. But other than that, bro, I do take some issues with, them being left out, right? And should they be left out? If it's them versus Miami, it's Miami every time they beat them head-to-head. I agree with that 100%, but I'm just not understanding that thought process and in people's mind why it's okay, right, for why it's not okay for them to decide that they don't want to play in a bowl game. I wouldn't want to play in a bowl game either, bro. It ain't personal. Jeremiah Love, outstanding season. Fernando Mendoza, outstanding season. This kid is going to make himself a lot of money. Heading and playing on Sundays. I don't like the ideology of that this kid isn't genuine. He isn't being his genuine self. I don't like the ideology that he's a bit quirky. Okay, but you look at him as a nerd. He's a follower of Christ. He's an outstanding football player. He puts on for his team each and every Saturday, bro. And that win against Ohio State in a Big Ten championship was an outstanding win. He had a right to have that moment. Allow him to have his moment. There's too many people that don't like college football that watch the sport just to talk about it, bro. Like, if you don't like it, like, go watch the NFL. Like, go watch something else. You don't gotta go watch USFL, whatever the name of the new league is that they have. Like, you don't gotta watch this, bro. But Fernando Mendoza is everything right about this sport. And the fact that people are, like, name-calling and doing all, like, you lame as hell for that. For real. You are lame as hell if you have an issue with Fernando Mendoza or you question how genuine this kid is. Kid just came off the biggest victory of his lifetime. Do people not remember he was playing for fucking Cal last year? Excuse my French. I'm so sorry for all of the viewers that are watching this, but he was playing for Cal last year, bro. Like, he's at Indiana now. Number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff. And you all have an issue with what he did this year. That's crazy. 33 touchdowns, 6 picks. 71% completion percentage. I think he's the favorite heading into here, but I'm going to caution everyone. You be careful. You be very careful because this Diego Pavia story, I'm telling you, this is cinema. There will be a movie on Diego Pavia and what he's did for the city of Nashville and what he's done for Vanderbilt. There will be a movie on this kid. The cinema is there. Everything you need is there. And I'm upset that it didn't make the college football playoff, but based on the cards that were dealt, when you start to look at head-to-head victories, when you start to look at who played, the strength of your record, the strength of your schedule, yes, they shouldn't have made it. But damn, it would have been good to see this Hollywood cinema-style story. And shout out to him, bro. He's going to clean up. I continue to say it. And I think people better get ready. It would not surprise me if he won the Heisman because I think there's an agenda by the SEC. I think there's an agenda by a lot of people. Hey, look what this kid did for a team that was looked at and viewed upon as the laughingstock of the SEC for decades. We're not talking about just a few years. They were the laughingstock of the conference for decades. We remember the quote that Nick Saban had a year ago. That has now changed. And Diego Pavia is leading the charge for the change in that conference, right? So we got Julian saying he's up here. Outstanding season for Julian saying. Outstanding season for Ryan Day and Ohio State. I can't say enough great things about them. My only issue with Ohio State this year, and I said this on College Football Showdown roughly a week ago, I hadn't seen them in the deep water. And for a team this late in the season to not be in that deep water, that's scary. For you not to have myriads of, maybe myriad even isn't the right vernacular, but you hadn't had quite a few opportunities to show that, hey, we can play in that deep water. We've seen Indiana in the deep water versus Iowa, in that deep water versus Oregon. We've seen Oregon in that deep water versus Iowa. USC in that deep water versus Iowa as well. Like, we've seen some of these teams in deep water. We've seen Vandy in some deep water this year. Texas was in deep water versus a few teams. We've seen Ty Simpson in Alabama going to Athens in the deepest of waters and leave with a victory. We've seen Georgia in trouble in Knoxville. They were in deep, deep waters. And sometimes when you play a team of caliber and, an outstanding team, and you haven't had those opportunities in a very long time to be in that deep water, to have those gut checks, I think it will bode well for Ohio State over time because now they have had that deep water game, but you have to be able to play in that deep water in college football. And for a team to be as good as they were just so dominant this year. But they hadn't been in the deep water a lot, and that's what scared me about a team that's coached by Kirk Cignetti, because Kirk Cignetti is truly a sicko, and a guy like Fernando Mendoza, they've been in that deep water. They've been challenged this year. Ohio State hasn't really been challenged much, when you think about it. So that was my issue with them. But it'll be interesting to see who wins the Heisman. Early pick is Fernando Mendoza, but don't be surprised if Diego Pavia wins this thing. Notre Dame declines their bowl invitation. We talked about that a little bit earlier. It is what it is. That was their decision to make. And they made it not as a coaching staff, not, from a program. When you start to look at some of the admin, they made that as a team. They made that as an entire unit. So if you consider them a sore sport, whatever, it is what it is. But don't say, hey, you guys aren't good enough to be in a college football playoff, but then think you're going to use our name, image, and likeness to sell out some bowl games. Now, this is going to be a huge blow to the bowls. Like, let's be honest about it, and let's look at it transparently. We got teams already opting out bowls. I believe Kansas State and Iowa State were both fined by the Big 12, if I remember correctly, because they're opting out of bowl games. But some of that is just massive coaching changes, and then a lot of players hitting the portal. They just want to be able to be healthy, all right? And I think that's important when you have so many moving pieces. And I don't think they should be fined for that. And probably one of the first decisions that I've disagreed with Brett Yormark on, because he's done an outstanding job as commissioner of the Big 12, but I don't agree with them being fined. I really don't. And I know what the opposite or the rebuttal to that is. Hey, we need to preserve bowl games. Bowl games are important to the college football landscape. I get that 100%. But at the end of the day, some of these teams, when you're dealing with portal, when you're dealing with this coaching carousel, some of these teams, it's just too many moving pieces. Like, both of those teams had head coaching changes. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, to me, that's interesting. Mark Stoops, let's talk about his buyout a little bit. Baseball every year. One of my favorite days is Bobby Bonilla Day, where of course he was able to kind of I forgot the vernacular, but pretty much he was able to get his contract instead of getting it at that time. He was able to move it over a long summer years, and he's been getting paid long after he's retired from the sport. And I believe we just kind of got that in a way with Mark Stoops' situation. Also, congratulations to Matt Campbell being hired at Penn State. I know some people probably aren't in love with that move. Shout out to my boy Jalen Wilson because he actually called this before it happened. This is what I will say about Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell had done all he could do in Ames, Iowa, with what he was given. There just wasn't enough resources for him to get them further. Like, he's moved the needle forward for that program. Happy trails to him. I think he can be really successful at Penn State. We'll see, though. We're going to see. So, shout out to him, 17th coach named at Penn State. So, Mark Stoops' contract is a little bit different than what we usually see. So, of course, he's going to get roughly almost $38 million, but it's going to be paid out over 6 years. There'll be like a lump sum check of $4 million paid up front, and the payments made through 2031. I love that for him. If I'm a coach, I think more coaches should do that. If you have the ability to just go ahead and get those incremental payments over a set amount of time, and for him it's 6 years, I ain't mad at it. Of course, I still believe that Mark Stoops was the guy at Kentucky. Their brass, their fan base probably didn't feel the same way. And then when you look at Will Stein's contract, who has a 5-year deal, who's getting $5.5 million in year one, and then that raises to $5.9 million. They're pretty much paying them the same amount of money. I'm just interested to see, can the resources, will they be more plentiful for Will Stein than they were for Mark Stoops? Because I know Vince Merrill helped get a lot of players there. He's now the general manager at Louisville after leaving Kentucky. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'll be monitoring this situation closely. I know a lot of people are huge Will Stein fans, but I've also heard the opposite of that, where Oregon fans kind of have an issue with his play calling from time to time. It's just be interesting to see what exactly happens with this situation. I'm a huge Mark Stoops fan. I don't think that's a surprise to no one. I've always spoke very highly of him. I hated the fact that he had to go, but the program's got to do what they got to do at the end of the day. I'm sure Kentucky is looking at a team like Vandy and saying, well, damn, they were just in the cellar a few years ago. But here they are, like they're one of the best teams in our conference this year. What is the difference? Them being able to find a guy like Diego Pavia, them being able to find a guy like Eli Stavros, and them having people like Barton Simmons and Clark Lee who believe in the program. So I'm sure that they're happy with that. But it'll be something that we'll monitor because I'm not sure it's the right decision. I'm not saying it's a bad decision because Will Stein was one of those guys. We look at the who's who of the coaches carousel this past year. But I don't know. I'm just a huge fan of Mark Stoops. So we'll see. And it's the same thing for replacing Sam Pittman at Arkansas. He just wasn't given the resources. Even the AD said that. So it'll be interesting. Let's go ahead and get into our first segment. We're going to talk about this college football playoff bracket, how it's looking. I'm going to not really compare it to last year, but I have some thoughts on last year's, and we'll talk about it a little bit. So watching the college football playoff selection show on Sunday was cinema. It almost felt like the one that we watched in March for the Madness in March, as we watched, the 68-team bracket come alive and then watch those programs on the bubble either make it or don't make it. Like a lot of us believe that UNC shouldn't have made the tournament last year, but they proved after winning a couple of games in the tournament that they should be in the tournament a year ago. We have to come to a solution with the overall selection of this bracket. I know the ACC was a joke this year. Georgia Tech had opportunities, joke. And I know we have a close relationship with that program. It was still joke behavior. Miami had opportunities to win that conference, joke behavior. Five-way ties is embarrassing. Who else was it? Did I mention Pitt? Pitt had opportunities, joke. I'm just trying to name schools that, hey, if they played in the championship and won the championship, like UVA did have an opportunity to win, I don't think we would have seen what we saw as it pertained to the ACC conference championship being left out. And the CFP does state that, hey, the top 5 highest seeded conference winners will be in the playoffs. So I think we got this year. And I'm a huge fan of Group of Five football. Us at CFP Nation, we think it's important to push that level of football forward. Moon on his show, The World of College Football, he talks about the G5 a great deal, but he also talks about the FCS a great deal as well. The shirt I have on right now is the American shirt. But, when we start to look at a playoff in the NFL, generally, and you guys know, NFL's cool. I do watch my Buffalo Bills, not all the time, but I'll take college football any day over it. But generally, the teams who are in the playoff deserve to be there. I'm not saying that Tulane doesn't deserve to be in a college football playoff. I'm not even saying that James Madison don't deserve to be in a playoff. But what I am saying is, by the ACC screwing this thing up, I think we have some really lopsided matchups at that 5-12 matchup, at that 6-11 matchup. And JMU has an outstanding defense. I think they will have some opportunities to get Oregon off of the field, but that stadium is going to be crazy. It's going to be a raucous environment. I wonder how closely will this game mirror the one where Oregon played in the New Year's Six Bowl, I believe it's the Fiesta Bowl a few years ago when they played Liberty, and it was ugly. JMU will compete. I know that 100%, but, just being in that environment against that team, a team who feels like they're well-rested, seeing Dan Lanning on the CFP selection show the other day, they're ready to play ball, and I actually like the side of the bracket that Oregon is on as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We got one hell of a matchup at 8-9. This is cinema. This is college football, what movies are made of. When we get Alabama, Oklahoma 2, it'll be a night game in Norman on a Friday. I believe that the Oregon versus JMU game is Saturday at 7:30 p.m. I believe that's December 20th. And then December 19th, we have Alabama versus Oklahoma 2. We remember the game during the regular season. That game was in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma was able to come away with that victory. Just an outstanding job by Brent Venables and that defensive unit. And Ben Arbuckle and John Material just enough offensively to be able to win that game. But this matchup is pure cinema. I have no clue who's going to win. I really don't. I look at Alabama, I look at how poorly they played in their conference championship. I would have to give Oklahoma an edge just because of that. But it's going to probably feel like they hadn't played in a while, honestly, with the slight layoff. It's not a huge layoff, but it is a slight layoff. So, huge fans of both of these teams. This game is going to come down to protecting the ball like the first one did, and Ty Simpson just threw a horrible interception in that game, which resulted in a pick six in that game. And can Alabama protect him? I remember leading into that game, I remember Alabama was just talking about how they're going to be changing their signs. So, because, Brent Venables is known as a guy who's able to, read signs really well. That's your problem. If you're going to be archaic and antiquated, and got all of these stupid signs when you do have a green dot. I understand if you do have a turbo-style offense, you do need to use those signs on the sideline. But they talked a lot about, being able to change those up. And the fact that they didn't get the win that week was really frustrating for me. And I was pulling for Oklahoma that game. So, in Norman for the playoff, you're not going to be able to hear yourself think. I forgot to ask my dog Boomer if he was going to that game, but you're not going to be able to hear yourself think in this one. So I have to get a slight edge to Oklahoma because I've seen this game already. But as we saw in the conference championship, it's difficult to beat a team twice in a season. So that'll be interesting. But congratulations, winner of this game got to face Indiana, right? And so then we look at this Tulane versus Ole Miss matchup. I talked about it a little bit earlier. This is a game that we've seen already this season. The SIP is going to be crazy. Pack the Vault is going to be crazy. Oxford is going to be crazy. And I'm going to caution people who have the notion that, hey, Lane Kiffin isn't there. I don't think we're going to see the same team. Those players are the same. Pete Golden is there. Charlie Weiss is calling the plays. He will be the offensive coordinator through the duration of the playoffs. Trinidad Shambliss is still at quarterback. Kewan Lacey is still at running back. This team is very dangerous. Ole Miss can't win it all, and I know Pete Golden's the head coach now, but for me, it was the way the players rallied around him when it was announced to their team and how excited they was. And I know the rebuttal for that will be, or the opposing argument will be, what was it staged? I don't think so. They look genuinely happy that Pete Golden was named the head coach. I think a lot of it is situational. some of the things they're going to have to learn. One thing that Lane Kiffin does really well is he works the refs really well. And I think those things are kind of nuanced, and you'll have to add those to your bag over time. But to get that first game, you're playing a team that you played already. But Tulane is a really good team. But I expect fireworks in Oxford. I 1,000% expect fireworks. And this one is the midday game on Saturday, on December 20, I believe that is. I expect Ole Miss huge in this game. I actually think there'll be a bigger disparity in this game than the 5-12 matchup because JMU does have the ability to run the rock. JMU also does have the ability to play defense. So I think they can keep it close for a little while. But in overall, these aren't great matchups. It is what it is. By the rules and the standards that are set now, and I'm going to get into my next segment, why we need a G5 playoff. I've been saying this since the damn offseason. I even gave you the format a few weeks ago. We need a G5 playoff. We really do. And then the other first-round matchup, we got Miami versus Texas A&M. I feel a few ways about Miami. There's no secret how I feel about Miami. I think they deserve to be on this playoff based upon the two teams that were head-to-head. Was Notre Dame versus Miami. Well, what's the first thing you're going to look at? Did they play each other? Yes, they played each other. Yes, Miami won that game. Yes, Miami should be in the playoff. I'm not saying Notre Dame shouldn't be in the playoff. I'm just saying if that's the metric, if it was those two teams versus each other, then Miami shall 100% be in this game. Now, another question for Texas A&M, and we talked about this in our CFP Nation group chat, with Colin Klein going back to the Little Apple, to Manhattan, Kansas, to be the head coach this time, not the offensive coordinator for Kansas State. How different will that offense look? Because, you know, when I think about teams and comfortability on offense, the first thing I think about is that quarterback relationship with the play caller relationship. How much trust is there? Do you trust me to make the proper reads at the line of scrimmage? Do you trust me to take a gamble here and there? That trust element is important. So coming into this game, I don't know what to expect. But this is what I do expect. This is going to be a noon game. It's going to be at College Station. Miami ain't going to be able to hear themselves, and don't get down early. That's all I got to say about that. Don't get down early. I'm going to say something that I've been saying all year as it pertains to Texas A&M, as it pertains to my belief in Texas A&M. Yes, Colin Klein is a huge loss. It really is 100%. But I believe, and this is even after the Texas game where Texas handled them in that second half. I thought Texas A&M had the edge in that first half. In the second half, it was the Arch Manning show. Shout out to Arch Manning for that game. But I believe, I'm trying to say if I still believe this, because I saw Indiana in the deep water. They look good in the deep water. But I believe Texas A&M has more ways to beat you than any team in the country. I really do believe that. So to go across these games, give me Oregon to beat JMU. Alabama and Oklahoma is a toss-up, but I saw what I saw, and I saw the physicality, and I saw that this was in Tuscaloosa. This time it's in Norman. For some strange reason, Brent Venables seems to always be a little bit ahead of Kalen DeBoer. Give me Oklahoma to win that one. And so that leaves us with Oregon versus Texas Tech. That will leave us with Oklahoma versus Indiana. That will leave us with Ole Miss versus Georgia, too. One of the best games of the year, if you had not seen it, was that game, that shootout in Athens. And then that will leave us with Texas A&M because I think they will beat Miami. I think that game will be a pretty convincing game, honestly. And then we will have Texas A&M versus Ohio State. So as we work our way up and we start to look at this next round, the quarterfinals, Oregon versus Texas Tech, I think that's a bad matchup for Texas Tech. I don't know if anybody else feel that way, but I truly believe that is a bad matchup. And I feel that way for a couple of reasons. Honestly, and this is something that my dog Boomer pointed out in a BYU game, is that offensive line play struggles sometimes at keeping their quarterback upright. Because keep in mind that Baron Morton was injured at parts of the season. Will Hammond, who played phenomenally in backup duty this season, he's out for the year. And there were times against BYU, you know, their defense is phenomenal. You got two great defenses in this matchup, but I will lean neutral site. I will lean Oregon a little bit over Texas Tech because I don't think Texas Tech been in that deep water enough. Oregon has, right? Indiana versus Oklahoma, that will be a damn good game. Two sickos of head coaches. We get Kirk Cignetti versus Brent Venables. Indiana waiting a little bit, aren't they? Yeah, to play this game. It's a dangerous matchup for Indiana. Do you guys get the feeling that they got the raw deal this one? Like, I mean, I don't know. You can say the same thing for Texas Tech, but I feel like they kind of got the raw deal with this one. You remember last year there was a clear, easier path? Like, Penn State had one of those easiest paths, and that's why I picked them to win it all. Last college football playoff, once I seen the bracket, and it was purely based on the bracket and purely based on the matchups. Oklahoma versus Indiana is going to be difficult to choose, and I went, give me Indiana to win that game. I think that they have more ways to win in Oklahoma. So, Indiana versus Oregon 2 in the semifinals will be crazy. So, let's work our way to the bottom half of the bracket. We got Ole Miss versus Georgia. In a perfect world, if Lane Kiffin's still a head coach at Ole Miss, I will be confident in Ole Miss versus Georgia because I remember how tired Georgia defense was when they played Ole Miss in Athens. And Trinidad Shambliss was just having the time of his life. So was Keywan Lacey. And then, Gunnar Stockton came alive in the fourth quarter for Georgia. Georgia defensively was able to buckle it up in the fourth quarter. They were able to get a few pivotal stops that they needed in that game. So we've seen this before. Georgia does have Kirby Smart. We've seen how damn good they looked in the SEC championship, but I would lean Ole Miss even without Lane Kiffin just because I saw what I saw. And if they can play at that incredible tempo in a raucous environment, this one will be neutral site, even though I believe that this game might be in Atlanta. I'm going to lean Ole Miss in this game. So then that will leave Ohio State and Texas A&M. Colin Klein, if he's the offensive coordinator for Texas A&M, I will pick Texas A&M to win this game. But give me Ohio State. So that will give us in the semifinal Ohio State versus Ole Miss. And then that will give us Indiana versus Oregon 2. Give me Oregon and Indiana versus Oregon 2. I don't know why. Because Indiana clearly beat Oregon at Autzen. But I believe it'll be a different game. I truly believe it'll be a different game. So give me Oregon to be in a national championship. And then we have Ohio State versus Ole Miss. I would love to pick Trinidad Shambliss and Ole Miss. And what a great story that would be. But give me Ohio State. They give us Ohio State, Oregon in a championship. Dan Lanning. Eugene, Oregon. Dan Lanning and company wins the national championship this year. I don't know why I feel so confident about that. But yeah, Oregon wins the championship this year. That's my college football playoff. Now, I think anybody can win this thing. I truly do believe that. Styles make fights. That's something that I've always said straight up. But just looking at the way that this bracket could play out and the sicko that Dan Lanning is and his ability to prepare his teams for big games, big moments, I think it's long overdue. You look at the team he has this year, it hasn't been as good as teams in the past. I believe there's been some letdowns with some of the teams he had in the past. Like, think about it. They were 13-0 in the regular season last year, go to the playoff and get dog walked by Ohio State. But, yeah, I think it's Dan Lanning's season. Give me Oregon to win it all. Let's go ahead and talk about this G5 playoff. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this is something I've talked about, quite a lot. Fact of the matter is we need a G5 playoff. I talked about the Celebration Bowl and why it's so important for HBCU schools because they win a Super Bowl. They win a championship every year. Now, some people would deem it as a consolation prize. I'm not saying that G5 shouldn't still get that main representation. And maybe they should still get the opportunity to have a second or third representation based on the top 5 highest rated seeds or, whatever you have. But I think it's important for them to have that playoff. I believe you look at the Celebration Bowl, you look at its model. I'm saying roughly 8 teams. First round games are at home, and then the next round games, like the quarterfinal and the semifinal, those games and the championship, those games will be bowl games. So then you have really important bowl games because they're a part of that G5 playoff, and I think that would just be truly magnificent because it'll be a part of the G5 playoff. You don't have some of the issues that you have in with other games where teams are opting out and then you're scrambling to find someone else to play in that bowl game because bowl games should have significance. Bowl games do play a huge role in the college football landscape. But people who aren't college football fans look at bowl games and they laugh at them. Oh, look at all of these players holding out. Oh, this player entered the transfer portal. This coach has went to a new team, and they're laughing at bowl games, right? For those of them who aren't 1%ers and they don't really care about college football, they get a good kick out of it. And that's one of their main arguments for people who say NFL over college football is that the bowl games don't matter. Well, they do matter. and they're a huge recruiting tool. But I think that you can give them even more importance if you put the G5 playoff and align it with some of these bowl games. We need a G5 playoff. I think that would be so important for these schools. It could be a great recruiting vehicle for these schools. Because if you're a team like San Diego State and you got a guy wide receiver by the name of Danny Scudero, he's gone, bro. Like you're not keeping him. Like you're just not. But a G5 playoff championship can make somebody feel differently about a program. And I think it would just be magnificent. And I think we're starting to see why. Because you look at Texas. You look at Vandy, even though Vandy's a little bit further down the total poll. You look at Notre Dame, right? You look at Notre Dame. You look at JMU. Notre Dame will beat the snot out of JMU. It is what it is. Texas will beat the snot out of JMU. It is what it is. And Tulane has rightfully earned the spot. Their strength of schedule, what they had to go, the gauntlet that they had to go through in the American. Shout out to the American. I do have an American shirt on right now. Yes, great job. You deserve to be there. I'm not saying JMU doesn't deserve to be there, but when you start to get to what teams are more deserving to be there, and we just seen the major demise of the ACC this year, and I felt all along, and I've said it all along. I've been consistent in that the Big 12 will only get one team in, and that the ACC will only get one team in. This is an opportunity for ACC to get two teams in, but everybody decided to be 6-2 in the conference, and a 5-way tie led to Duke being in a conference championship, and then they ended up winning the conference championship. So yeah, ACC is a joke right now, in my opinion. Just being really honest, but that's just my thought on the G5 playoff. We need it; it's necessary. Give those teams something other to fight for. Of course, that main team, or even if it's two teams like this year, hey, go try to win a big one, represent the G5 really well. But for those other teams, hey, let's decide who the champion is. I would be a huge fan of that. Let's go ahead and talk about this SEC All-Conference. I think I was telling you guys a little bit earlier that I love getting these emails from whether it's conferences, bowl games, teams. It's just always kind of nice to get them. And, got this one earlier, and it lists the SEC All-American team, and we're going to talk about that shortly. Alrighty, so let's look at this first team. Earlier, I was telling you all that I believe there's a Diego Pavia kind of push by the SEC to be like, hey, man, this guy deserves to win the Heisman. He's first team, all SEC. Some people probably expected Ty Simpson to be here. If you're a Georgia fan, maybe Gunnar Stockton. I think Gunnar Stockton is one of the more my dog ECG, Dante from ECG, we had that conversation like, yo, bro, is just so disrespected. Running backs Amar Hardy and Keywan Lacey have no arguments there. Wide receiver Chris Brazel from Tennessee, outstanding year he had this year. Casey Concepcion also had an outstanding year this year. Tight end Eli Stowers. Offensive lineman, you got Caden Proctor, Trey Zoon III from Texas A&M, Keegan Trost from Missouri, Trevor Gooseby from Texas. Center, I think the best interior lineman in all of college football, and Jake Slaughter from Florida. All-purpose, we got Kevin Concepcion. Defense, we got Cassius Howell. We got Colin Simmons from Texas, Zion Young from Missouri, R. Mason Thomas, Oklahoma. Shout out to Oklahoma. I show this every now and then, but I do use the Sooners in this huge college football playoff lead that I'm in, and I got a trophy for winning the first championship that we had. I think we're headed into season 5. I only got one, but I'm excited about this recruiting class. We're actually in the off season now, so hopefully we can win it. C.J. Allen from Georgia, Xavier Atkins. These are the linebackers from Auburn. We're still on our first team. Josiah Trotter from Missouri. D-backs, we got Mansur Delane, LSU. Bray Hubbard, Alabama. Michael Taft, Texas, who we expect to be there, and A.J. Halsey from LSU. Special teams, place kicker, we got Tate Sandale from Oklahoma. Hey, that dude's got swag. I like that kid. I like that kid a lot. And then Grayson Miller from Oklahoma. Shout out to OU, man. Really doing the thing. And we got kickoff specialist Lucas Canero, Ole Miss, and then long snapper, we got Bo Gardner from Georgia. And those are the players for the first team. Second team, quarterbacks, we got Trinidad Chambliss, Ole Miss, Ty Simpson, Alabama, Jaden Ball, Florida. Outstanding year on a semi-bad team this year. Deshaun Bishop, Tennessee. Mike Washington, Arkansas. Great player on a bad team. Isaiah Satania for Oklahoma, outstanding year. Zachariah Branch, he just does everything. And then Ryan Wingo for Texas, second team. Tre'Davious Green, LSU. Daquan Wright, outstanding year for him at Ole Miss this year. Fernando Camona, Arkansas. We got Monroe Freeling, Georgia. Fabici Iowa, Oklahoma. Caden Green, Missouri. Drew Bobo, shout out to Drew Bobo from Georgia. Second team all SEC. Isaiah Satinga, all-purpose. Defensive line, this is still second team. Damon Wilson the second from Missouri. Taylor Wayne, Oklahoma. Quincy Rhodes Jr., Arkansas. Dylan Stewart, second team. Wow. South Carolina. Anthony Hill Jr., second team. Arion Carter, my dog from Tennessee. Deontay Lawson from Alabama. KJ Bolden, Georgia. This is secondary now. Peyton Bowen. We predicted on this very show that he would have a breakout year. Shout out to Peyton Bowen. We got Ty Bryant, Kentucky. Jalen Kilgore, South Carolina. Who's a tie? And Malik Muhammad, Texas. Second team on SEC special teams. Place kicker. We got Peyton Woodridge, Georgia. Brett Thorson, Georgia. Ryan Niblett, Texas. Kickoff specialist. We got Josh Tuberville, Tennessee. Long snapper. We got Ben Anderson, Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a lot of players on here. Third team on SEC offense. Quarterback, Gunnar Stockton. Running back, we got Nate Frazier and Jamar Cobb. Wide receiver, we got Brendan Thompson, Mississippi State. He had a great year this year. Mario Carver, who I thought would be higher on this list. He's third team. Tight end, Jaron Knack. I heard Boomer talking about him earlier in the season. Offensive line, we got Austin Barber, Florida. Diego Pounds, Ole Miss. Chase Bastans, Texas A&M. DJ Campbell, Texas. Lance Hurd, Tennessee. Parker Brailsford, Alabama. All-purpose, Zachariah Branch. Defense, Keldrick Falk, Auburn. Brian Thomas Jr., South Carolina. Keyron Crawford, Auburn. Will Eccles, Ole Miss. Prince Will Newman-Nealon, Ole Miss. Name should sound familiar. Torian York, I'm surprised he's not higher up there. Texas A&M, Harold Perkins, LSU. Ty Rampman, Tennessee. Kelly Jones, Mississippi State. These are defensive backs. Dalen Everett, Georgia. Eli Bowen, Oklahoma. We remember the huge game that he had versus Alabama earlier in the season. Colton Hood, Tennessee. And them two were tied for the last place on the third team. We got place kicker Damon Ramos, Grant Chadwick, LSU. We got Vicari Swain, South Carolina. Kickoff specialist Trey Smack, Florida. Long snapper, we got Rocco Underwood. So those are the SEC first team, second team, and third team. Shout out to all of those players. Shout out to the coaches and staff and everybody that helped get them on this list. Shout out to them. It's about these kids at the end of the day. And it's incredible that they were all able to make this list. Let's go ahead and move right along. We're going to get into the Celebration Bowl prediction before we get into Army-Navy. Told everybody early in the opening, we're credential for the Celebration Bowl. We're also Radio Row for the Celebration Bowl as well. I'm flying down to Georgia either tomorrow night or early on Thursday. I haven't figured it out yet. But one of those days I am flying down because I believe we have Radio Row on Thursday. So we'll be live, try to interview as many players, coaches as possible, and even some of the people that helped put the Celebration Bowl together. This is the HBCU championship. We started off the season at the HBCU level. When who was it? Was it Southern played? Who's that team in North Carolina? They were pretty damn good too. So excited for this matchup. We got South Carolina State, really good. They were actually in the Celebration Bowl last year, lost to Jackson State in the championship. So I know their coach Barry is excited for an opportunity to win him an HBCU championship. South Carolina State is really good, and no disrespect for them, I was really rooting for Delaware State and the Hornets. Deshaun Jackson is there. He was also just named MEAC Coach of the Year. Shout out to him. And they finished, I think it was like a game or 2 games behind South Carolina. So I was monitoring it throughout the year to see who's going to be in the Celebration Bowl, because then we'd have had an opportunity to meet Deshaun Jackson and sit down and talk with him, because we are on Radio Row. So let's get into a little bit of the specifics about this game. If you've never heard of this game, this is the HBCU Championship. That's all it is. And like I said, I know Coach Chennisberry for South Carolina State. I know he's very excited to go there and get what he believes is rightfully theirs. But Prairie View ain't no slouch, and they deserve to be here. Let's talk about quarterbacks a little bit. We got William Atkins, the fourth, 2,300 yards. And you don't get as many passing yards at the HBCU level. That's 62% completion percentage. I believe he has 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 11 games. Not bad. He's one of those guys he's an anticipatory thrower. Rhythm timing is more important for him, and he prefers to do it from the pocket, right? And then you got the other gentleman for Prairie View and Cameron Peters at quarterback. He got 2,300 yards as well, 19 touchdowns, 490 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns as well. So he's dual threat. He's exciting. I think he'll be excited. I believe this game is airing on ESPN as well. 12 p.m. Saturday. This game should be on television as well. So it's a great weekend for football, and we do have a couple of opportunities. I could go out LA for the LA Bowl as well, but I like to start things. You know what I'm saying? How I finish it. So I want to be at the HBCU level. I want to be on Radio Row for this, fan. It's just truly exciting for me. They got Bingman at running back for Prairie View, 847 yards. He averages 5.7 yards per carry. He's exciting, and they have a wide receiver by the name of Josiah Rockwell. Big play factor. He has over 1,000 yards on the season. He averages like 16 yards per catch. I believe he has 6 touchdowns on the season. He's a big play target, and he's a guy to watch, especially when we look at Cameron Peters and his ability to make plays off script, outside the pocket. Teams are so scared. A lot of times you do have to put a spy on him, but if you don't, you play man, he's going to break a chain and he's going to pick up some yards. And I think that's where he and Josiah Rockwell really have like this mental telepathy that when things break down, he's making something off script. Josiah Rockwell will give him a place to throw the ball to be able to make plays. So that's one of the key things that I think South Carolina State is going to have to watch for in this game. But for me, when I look at this game, I look at South Carolina State, I look at Coach Berry, I look at them losing last year to Jacksonville State, and you look at the defeat on the players, because South Carolina State has been good for a while now, and they played the football at the HBCU level about as best as you're going to see year in and year out. I know Jackson State gets a lot of hype. Of course, Deion was there, and they've been successful as of late. But South Carolina State, at that HBCU level, they expect excellence on the gridiron. They really do. And I think they're going to take what's rightfully theirs. Not sure how close this game is going to be, but please give me South Carolina State to win this game. I think they may end up winning this one by 14. Don't forget, we will be live, Radio Row. I believe when I talked to Moon, our chief strategist, when I talked to him, I believe he said Radio Row was Thursday, so I think I need to be there in time for that on Thursday. So might be leaving tomorrow night or catch a really early flight or red eye tomorrow night to get there on Thursday so we can give y'all that access. I love being able to give you guys that access. That's super important to me. All right, so let's get to Army-Navy. I think this week is just one of those weeks when I don't think this is a 1%er thing. I don't think it's anything thing, to be honest with you. I think people are like, damn, like if you're a fan of a team that finished, 5-7 or 4-8, like, damn, I want to see my favorite team play again this year. Hopeful for the offseason. Let's pay attention to recruiting. Let's pay attention to the coaches' carousel. How are we going to get incrementally better so next year, we're playing for a bowl game or we have an opportunity to make the CFP. I think this is an interesting time of the year. And Army-Navy week, for me, it's always been a week about pride, dealing, with the Celebration Bowl, the eloquence of the Army-Navy game. It's such a grand event, how they present the event, the people that are there for this mega event. It's a game that's presented the right way. But for some of us, this is like the start of what we know as, damn, the end of the season is almost here. And I don't know about you all, but when the college football season is over with, it's hard for me to watch a national championship each and every year. Of course, am I excited to watch it? Absolutely. But each and every year, it's just hard for me to watch it. Because I know we're about to go like a long period without college football. A very long period. There are more days in the year without college football than there is with college football. You have to make it interesting. You have to see what's going on at these winter workouts. You got to see what's going on at spring camp. You got to see what happened after the end of spring camp and summer workouts and then fall camp. So it's kind of broken down in years, and a lot of us are just like, all right, spring season is here. All right, see where some of these teams are at. No more late window portal, so that takes some news away from us. And then, by the top of July, like season starts in July for me. We're going to as many media days as possible. We're trying to bring you guys the best content possible live. We don't know who's going to get thrown at it sometimes. We don't know who we're interviewing next sometimes. That's the live element, and I love the live element. So for me, this game, it means so much, but it also means like, damn, we're nearing the end of the season. So let's talk about these two teams. Let's talk about this prestigious matchup. We'll go over the history. We'll go over the coaches. We'll go over the schemes and the personnel and try to get you guys who I think will win this game. This is the 126th meeting of America's game. This will be at M&T Bank Stadium, Baltimore, Maryland, Saturday, December 13th. I probably could have went to this game. But like I said, I thought it was important for me to be down there at the Benz in Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. Navy does lead this series, 63-55 with 7 ties. And Navy was able to win 2024 contest. This is one of those games I think everybody, even if you don't watch the game, and I suggest that you do watch the game, I'll have to probably watch it in post. But hopefully I have an opportunity to at least watch the opening of the game. If you're able to see that, and just to see that the way that this game is presented, it's one of those things, man. It's one of the eighth wonders of college football. It's a must-see event, man. It's one of the most significant rivalries in all of sport. Two programs, two entities that help protect our great nation. You know, when you look at what the Navy does by sea and what the Army does by land. But yeah, they're playing for the Commander-in-Chief trophy. You know, we know how that go. But let's look at the head coaches in the team. Pause. We got Jeff Monken, 6-5 this season. You look at the great year Army had last year. Was this year a disappointment, or did you kind of know that with some of the roster construction there, or the roster reconstruction is probably a better word, that it'll be a little bit of a I guess a rebuilding year will probably be the right words. And when you just look at the American overall, that conference, bro, just outstanding. They gave us outstanding football this year. They really did. And they probably in top 3 for me in conference play when you look at conferences and outstanding play. Week in and week out, American gave us top quality football. So this will be exciting in my opinion. Now, let's look at Brian Newberry, head coach at Navy. It was dope seeing him at American Media Days this year. We spent time with him. We spent time with the players. Just a stand-up program. It really, really are. Really are. And I think Navy is truly headed in the right direction. They were a few plays away, too, from being in a conference championship this year. They really were. So we know what this is. It's 2 service academies running variations of the triple option offense, flex bone. But I think it is a more modern style because both of these teams aren't afraid to take shots. They just aren't. So, offensive coordinator for Army, Kay Worley. I already told you what they do. Flex bone, triple option, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. But you're going to see a lot of running. And styles make fights because both of these teams have similar styles. Then this game is going to be won on the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. We both know that. The team that can control the line of scrimmage and get a pop play here and a pop play there, I think is going to have the best chance to win this game. You look at what North Shore is able to do, what Brady Anderson is able to do on the outside. Kale Helms at quarterback, you look at what he's able to do. And Blake Horvath is must-see TV. If you have not seen this kid play, you should check him out. 1,000 yards passing, 14 touchdowns. I'm sorry, that's rushing. And then passing, he has 1,300 yards with 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Did you see the miracle in Philadelphia early in the season versus Temple? When Temple looked like they had the game won. Look on Temple's sideline, they're jumping up and down. They're ready for it. And Blake Horvath said, hold my beer. Not so fast. And they was able to win that game. This is a game, like I said, it's very similar. It's a purist game because these kids are going to put it all on the line. I'm telling you. And they recognize each other's styles because that's the styles that their offense use. And they mirror each other on offense and defense, right? So when we start to look at some of the advanced metrics, these are 2 teams that are going to continuously finish in the top 10 in rushing year in and year out. And then passing offense, they're going to be near the bottom year in and year out because they run that's the bread and butter for what they do. Time of possession, both of these teams are going to be really high. Army is first in FBS in time of possession at 35 minutes. Navy is 17th at 32 minutes per game. Navy's offense is, I'm telling you, they execute at a very high level. They almost, on third down, their percentage is almost at 50%. They get it done on third downs. And then Army defense struggles on third down. So we have a major strength versus a major weakness. That's not good. Army is the most disciplined team in the country. First in penalty yardage per game. And that's an indication on your program. That's an indication on your head coach. And what Coach Monk can bring to the table. That's incredible. Only 24 penalty yards per game. They're not going to give you the game. And then scoring defense, Army's a little bit better than Navy, middle of the pack, but Navy does score a lot of points offensively. So who can control the line of scrimmage, the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage? Who can control the tempo of this game, and who can have those flash pop plays? It's not going to be a lot of them. It really ain't, but I do expect Blake Horvath to have a couple games, a couple plays this game. It's really wow you. It really will. So I do got Navy winning this game. I think it'll be like one of those 31-17 type games. I think the Blake Horvath experience would just be too much for Army. So that's the Army-Navy game. It's so fun to be back, man. I promise you it's so fun to be back. I'm happy. This is my happy place. This is my home. It feels like forever since I've given you all an episode. And I'll be right back live tomorrow. I should be live tomorrow. I just got to talk with Moon to figure out what day I do absolutely need to be in Atlanta. And then hopefully Thursday we're able to go live from Radio Row from the Celebration Bowl and give you guys quality content. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in a sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. Until next time, you all take care. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great defensive
on the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the ball.